Hello everyone, bringing you a video today looking at two examples of life jackets developed for parachute troops in the British Army in the post-war years. The Mark I, which was introduced in the 1950s, to my understanding, and the Mark II, which is an updated version of very similar design to the Mark I, but using updated materials and so forth, which I believe was introduced in the 1970s, the late 1970s. And as I say, we're going to have a look at these, compare and contrast them to some degree. I'll show you examples of me wearing them to show how they're worn and how the system of straps and so forth works. The Mark II was brought by my friend Alan, who stayed with us over Christmas. And I've actually subsequently purchased this from him, so thank you very much again, Alan. First of all, for bringing it up with you for the purposes of filming it, and secondly, for giving me the opportunity to purchase it off you. So without further ado, we'll get into the main part of the video and have a look at these two different designs. So this is the Mark I life jacket parachutist in its pack, as you can see here. We've got the printed label on the outside here, which details the part number and obviously the fact it has the stole gas inflated and the CO2 cylinder, etc. These close at the back. It's a fairly common feature amongst all of the ones we're going to be looking at in these videos. Closed with a single lifter dot in the centre there, which is an extended pin that fits through an eyelet on this flap here and then another eyelet on that flap there, and then opens up like this. So remove the life jacket here. We do have further printing on the inside of the pack here. Pack for parachutist life jacket, etc. You can see there. This is actually dated October 1958. If I bring that up to the camera there, sorry, I was holding that out of frame. There we go, that's better. Pack for parachutist life jacket, and then date at the bottom there, as you can see. Very simple canvas bag, really, that this folds into with a little carry handle at the top there. Then we have the life jacket itself. You can see that here. As you'll see in a minute or two, I will actually put this on to demonstrate it. It's probably the easiest way. It doesn't fit on the mannequin very well. It buttons around the body here with 3 buttons. You see the buttons and the buttonholes down the front there. You've got the inflatable bladder, which runs around here, obviously to provide support. It's quite high on the chest and around the back of the head. It means it carries you high in the water and keeps your head upright in the water even if you're unconscious. That's the idea anyway. You have a canister to inflate it here, which is in a zipped compartment. If I open this up, you can see details of the canister in there. And obviously the pull release at the bottom here, which would inflate the life jacket if need be. You can see the handle on that there. That also ties into place with little tapes as well, as you can see there. Zip that back down again. Obviously I could unfasten the press studs along here to show you the inside, but I'll undo one and you can see the orange colour of the inside of the bladder there, but I'm not going to undo the whole thing because it's a nightmare to get folded in and packed out again. I think that's been badly done at some point in its past, which is a little bit bulky than it should be really. It's not been folded up properly inside, but I'm loath to get it all out and repack it. You can see a label in the collar here, which details obviously the garment itself, the item itself, and the stores code and so forth. And then you have the manufacturer's label underneath that, and you can see it's made by P. Frankenstein and Sons Limited in Manchester, who made life jackets, not only parachutist life jackets, but also made the Mae West for the Royal Air Force and so forth as well. Quite famous for producing life jackets, life-saving equipment for the military. And then if we look at the back of this, you can see the webbing harness which goes around the back there, and then there is this long section, this long strip of cloth which passes up under the crutch and then secures at the front with a large pin which has a hole through it there. And this comes to the front. These two straps come across and pin in place like that, as you can see. We'll demonstrate this now. I'll put this on to give you a better idea of what it looks like when it's being worn. But that is the Mark I of the life jackets parachutist. It's only modified slightly in the Mark II, but we'll have a look at that as well in just a minute. But first of all, I'll put this on and just give you an idea of what it looks like when it's worn. You can see the way this fits up around the neck, quite high on the chest. The idea of that, of course, being that it will hold you upright in the water, keep your head out of the water, as already said. You can see the way the harness comes down here and fixed at the front. You do have these little cords. I didn't mention these previously. Little cords coming down here. If we can find the other one, there we go. And they actually attach onto the bottom of the bladder and secure that to the harness here so that it's all held in place. You can see the pull tab here for activating the canister, which will inflate the life jacket. If I move around to this side here, you can see under the arm there, the straps coming round, and you can see the same on the other side here as well. If I turn the right way around, you can see the way the straps work on the rear of the life jacket as well, and how it fits on the body. So that's the details of the Mark I life jacket parachutists. We'll move on now to have a look at the Mark II life jackets parachutist. This is a somewhat more advanced design, certainly in the materials used. It's now made of nylon, as you can see. Probably you can see the shiny finish of that in the light from the camera here. Different setup of press studs, obviously containing the bladder. Again, high up on the chest and around the back of the head. The same principle in keeping you floating face up in the water, hopefully even if you're unconscious. It's a different method of operating the canister. The canister still is fitted on this side, down the side here, fully enclosed in this instance. You can see here this pull loop, which is affixed to the side here with press studs, is pulled. That pulls this tape which runs inside to the canister and activates it to inflate the internal bladder. You can see that poking out the bottom here, this bright orange colour, obviously for high visibility, and this is again now made in nylon. It closes around the front with two buttons. You can see that there. Quite similar to those used on aircrew clothing, so these small sort of Canadian type buttons which have obviously a loop of fabric rather than just being sewn on. So we have those buttons there, as you can see, and then it fastens round the back and under the crutch with a very similar set of straps to as those we saw on the Mark I. You can see that at the rear here if we turn it over. So you can see the cross piece in the back there, and then these straps which come round underneath the arm or around the hips. We have wet descent here, just a label showing this has been used in training. It does actually have some salt staining and so forth on it, so it's been in the water. And you can see this large piece of cloth which comes around obviously underneath the crutch and then fastens at the front. If we turn this over again, we can see how that fastens around at the front. Again, we have the strap coming up between the legs and fastening in the front with the two straps coming in from the side. The eyelets fit over the pin in the centre, and then that's secured using this split pin, as you can see there. Very similar system to that we saw on the Mark I. It's also a point to note as well is this method of activating the cartridge, the CO2 cartridge which inflates the life jacket, does seem to appear on late production examples of the Mark I, or may have been modified. I'm not entirely clear on that, so if anyone can assist with that in the comments, provide a comment clarifying that, I'd be interested to know. You do see, or certainly I have seen, Mark I examples with this method of operating the canister, as opposed to that we looked at previously. So just a point of interest there. But this is the Mark II, and we can see that if we look at the label at the back here, it actually has quite a nice clear label. Beaufort, well, there's a little bit of fading to this, but nevertheless it's still largely legible. And you can just about see the date of manufacture there, and you can see the designation here and the Mark II, you can see there, all on the label there. So you can pause here if you want to have a closer look at that. So that's a look at this sort of laid out. I will now put this one on as well, just to give you an example of what it looks like when it is worn. It's far easier than trying to put it on the mannequin with the crutch strap and everything. It doesn't fit very well on the mannequin, but we'll have a look at that now. And this is the Mark II life jacket parachutists. You can see very similar in forming a collar around the back of the neck and on the upper chest here, obviously with exactly the same reason of keeping your head out of the water. You can see how the attachment system works here with the pin at the centre, and then the two straps coming down, and then the strap coming up through the crutch to secure at the front here using a split pin again. You can see that. If we move around here, you can see the underarm strap coming around there, and the same on the other side there as well. You can see that. And I move all the way around, you can see the rear here, and the webbing straps running across the back there. So it gives you perhaps a better idea of how this fits. And that is the life jacket parachutist Mark II, as I say. Very similar to the Mark I, just essentially made in nylon, and obviously the different method of activating it by pulling on this beaded ring here to activate the canister to inflate it. So there we are, the Mark II. So I hope you found it interesting looking at these two versions of the parachutist life jacket. Interesting bit of airborne kit from the post-war years. Obviously a great step forward on the design of airborne life jacket developed during the Second World War. A far superior design and far more technologically advanced. and as I say, hopefully interesting to look at from that point of view. If you have found this interesting and you'd like to see more from the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there in the description as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.